Call roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Our invocation this morning will be delivered by our own Ron Bertel. Did you know that? I know you gave it, didn't you? I think we called you last week, so we got you again this week. So after the invitation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. If you bow with me. Our Heavenly Father, hallowed be your name. Thank you for this day and the many blessings that you have bestowed upon this county. I pray your continuing blessings on the county and these commissioners especially for their willingness to begin each meeting with a recognition of you by beginning the meeting with prayer. Your prophet Isaiah reminds us of your greatness in chapter 55. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. May we surrender our wills to you today and each new day and seek your ways in all that we consider so that we may serve your agenda and your objectives for the people of this county. We pray for your continuing blessings of peace and prosperity on this region, even in the midst of difficult times. For we know that nothing is impossible for you, and that you are the giver of all good things and the true sustainer of our substance. And most importantly, we thank you for the grace and mercy you show to us through our Savior, in whose name I offer this prayer. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ron. Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have two announcements for you this morning. The first one deals with an item on public health. It's a consent item, item 9H8. This regards the amendment number 1 to the contract for services with Engine Systems. There is a revised court communication in your packet or in your electronic file. The only change to that was a corrected grant number on that particular one. And then finally, members of the court, I want to remind you that next week we are not going to have court, that our next court is scheduled for 2 weeks from today, which is September 1st. And so we will not have court next week. Also, just to remind the court, we do have a large number of briefing items today. So as we move through the agenda, the briefing items total should take about 45 minutes or so. Thank you.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our special call meeting for August the 10th, as well as our regular meeting of August the 11th.
Move approval of both August 10th, August 11th minutes.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of proclamations that we have before us today. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have two there.
Yes, sir. They are both for ratification only. The first one recognizes the Southwestern Regional Conference of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, which was held in Fort Worth this past week, and the other, an event coming up next week, the Agents Training Seminar. I move ratification of both these proclamations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. It's also been called to my attention that somebody's having a birthday today. So, Steve, congratulations on your birthday. I'm glad to see you made it on another one there.
59? I think 59.
59?
Yeah.
I can look it up.
Kind of like Senator Nelson, this is the 20th anniversary of your 40th birthday.
49.
Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have motion and second to approve the consent agenda, and that's with the revised information as provided earlier. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Public hearings. Greetings, sir.
Good morning, Judge and members of the court. It is requested that the Commissioners Court conduct a public hearing today to consider the placement of a 30-mile-an-hour school zone on the speed limit on McPherson. We have corresponded with the City of Fort Worth and Everman ISD regarding this new school at the intersection of McPherson and Forest Hill Everman. McPherson borders on the north side of the school. It's maintained by Tarrant County. To the east, Forest Hill Everman borders on the west side of the school and is currently maintained by the City of Fort Worth.
This is public hearing. We'll open the public hearing at this time and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. There appearing none, then I'll close the public hearing. Is there any action?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have 3 additional items for the court this morning. The first one is really a retirement party. We're going to ask that the court receive and file the transfer of ownership document regarding our Fire Marshal Bomb K-9, which is Rulon. He is in the courtroom today, and to the care and handler pursuant to the prior agreement between the county and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. We also have a resolution that we're going to ask the judge to read, and Rulon basically said that he didn't mind retiring as long as his health benefits stayed intact.
So we don't have to give him any kind of a raise this year as long as we keep his health benefits there. I think we can handle this. Bring Rulon on up here.
You're waking him up.
I was going to say, Rulon doesn't make near as much noise as Wilder does. We ought to, can we trade him in for Wilder?
I bet Wilder could make him growl. I bet Wilder could make him growl.
Well, he certainly irritates the rest of us.
Oh, what a sweet dog.
Rulon looks like he's about ready to retire.
Well, listen to this.
Joining us.
Listen to this. Whereas for the past 10 years, Rulon, the explosive detection canine, has been an active member of Tarrant County Fire Marshal's Office, provided through a memorandum of understanding with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And whereas his work has been recognized throughout Tarrant County, the state of Texas, and the United States, and whereas Rulon has worked at the G8 Summit in Georgia, the Super Bowl in Houston, Miss Teen USA, Dallas Cowboy Games, Billy Graham Crusades, the Byron Nelson Golf Tournament, and other special events, whereas Rulon worked for President Bill Clinton, President George W. Bush, assisting in sweeps to ensure the safety of Air Force One and Marine One, and with dignitaries such as the Deputy Secretary of Defense, and whereas Rulon has assisted on many search warrants for various local, state, and federal agencies in numerous bomb threats in Tarrant County and surrounding counties, and whereas Rulon has earned the right to retire from service, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby congratulate Rulon and his handler, Larry Ingram, for their outstanding service to Tarrant County, the state of Texas, and the United States of America. In witness whereof, we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 18th day of August, 2009.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Thank Rulon very much. Is he back asleep while he's doing it?
He's chilling.
I wish our dogs at the house ever would have that. But I think that has a lot to do with my wife and her ability to...
You leave Brenda alone.
Yeah, that's twice.
I wanted to say something just real quick. Special Agent Steve Steele with the Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms out of the Dallas office is here. Steve works with our office and has been a big help in helping us obtain Rulon as well as working fire scenes and explosive scenes, with us. So I wanted to invite him here today because without ATF, Tarrant County wouldn't have had the resources that we've had since the year 2000 being Rulon. Rulon is not a tool. Rulon has been a part of our office, and he, as the resolution says, he's accomplished a lot of things that a lot of people don't know about, and I wanted the court to know that. We don't wave our flag all the time as to what we do. He kind of works behind the scenes, but he's been a big help to Tarrant County and across the state. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, it's the cooperation between ATF and the Fire Marshal's Office has been unbelievable for us. Rulon has been a tremendous asset to ATF and to all the other federal agencies that have called upon him to assist. Larry has always responded to my call and ATF's call, and we just, ATF would be greatly hampered if not for the assistance of the Fire Marshal's Office here. So we greatly appreciate, we greatly appreciate Rulon and Larry and the Fire Marshal's Office.
Thank you very much.
One other thing I wanted to mention to you, saying that Rulon's been a part of Tarrant County and part of the office. When Tarrant County originally started with SAP and all the employees had to go through training, Rulon was there. I don't have the photo, but he does have a photo of him sitting in a chair with his paw on the mouse, clicking on his payroll. So there may be something to that. But
Here we go.
But I do
So you
want
mean the dog is computer literate?
There you go. I do
You
speak
can't
for.
teach old dogs new tricks.
Yes, I do want to speak for Larry. He's not much in talking in the public, but he's been a good deputy to go and do the things that needed to be done with Rulon, and I'm proud of him. And I want to thank the court for sponsoring us and standing behind us and supporting Rulon and Larry. Thank you.
Larry, we appreciate very much. I know what your efforts have been in this, and I'm sure that you'll very much enjoy having Rulon at home with you and continue to be that friend that he's become.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have we posted Rulon's job?
I don't know. Maybe we ought to do that.
That's about a
I don't know. I kind of enjoy seeing him sniff out some bombs instead of dropping them.
Okay, are we ready to move forward?
Sure.
Members of the court, if we could go to item number 2, we're requesting that the court approve an amendment to the FY09 interlocal agreement between Tarrant County and TxDOT as it relates for the continuation of the mobility assistance program operated by the Sheriff's Department.
Move approval.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I really believe this has been a great program. I constantly see our sheriff's deputies out there on the highways doing a job, and I know it's appreciated by the folks who they help, and I have to believe they feel a whole lot, more secure when they see that truck pull up behind them. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, members of the court, on item number 3, we're requesting that the Commissioners' Court approve the purchase of property which is located at 209 Magnolia Avenue in Fort Worth, Texas. This is a piece of property that once we acquire it, we will be swapping it with the hospital district in order to gain the property where we're going to build the expansion of the medical examiner's labs.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. Inasmuch as I know where this property is located, I can surmise that it's 209 West Magnolia. Magnolia stretches on both sides of Main Street. Consequently, there is an east part and a west part.
And you're correct, it is West Magnolia, but it's more fully described in the order itself as lots 9 and 10 of the block in the basic legal description. But you're absolutely correct, it is West Magnolia.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ron? No. You can get one.
May not be recognized. We have a request from the bank to substitute some collateral, release and substitute collateral, and we're recommending that action.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Snyder?
There are 2 claims today that the Risk Management Board is recommending the approval of. They are Carlos Duran and William Rickard.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Mr. McAllister?
Morning.
Morning.
Your Honor, we are requesting interim funding for our mental health diversion court and the direct drug court programs pending receipt of grant funds. We expect those within 60 to 90 days.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Clem. Ms. Glenn? Whoop. Ms. Worthy?
Miss Glenn is in Florida. My first item is request that you receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is request approval of a waiver of terminal benefits for the county clerk's office. One of the probate supervisor has retired on July the 31st with 400 hours. They have had some delay and are asking this to be effective August the 19th for the remaining 304 hours with a cost of $8,371.06. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third item is also a request for approval of waiver of terminal benefits, and this is for facilities management. Their Secretary 5 retired again on July 31st with 400 hours of vacation, and they're going to delay asking the effective date of this to be August the 31st for the remaining 240 hours. Because of the cost savings with the new incumbent that's going to take the position, the difference in the total cost will be $5,148 for this waiver.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our final item is requesting the approval of the annually determined contribution rate to the Texas County and District Retirement System. We do annually. This is the rate to fund our retirement system. And the first thing we need you all to consider is funding the rate to keep it at the status quo, which is 11.85%. And the second issue for you to consider is whether you want to approve a COLA. And we typically approve our COLA at 80% of CPI. Since our CPI is so low this year, that additional rate will be 0.01%, which would total 11.86% should you choose to approve the COLA. Normally, when we approve a COLA, we create some rate creep. However, since the CPI rate is so low this year, there will be negligible rate creep. There is not an issue with rate creep for future funding. The standard rate of the 11.85% is included in this year's budget. However, the COLA is not currently included in the budget for next year. I'm sorry, not this year's, next year's. However, that amount is $23,169 should you choose to approve the COLA.
Move approval of the regular retirement rate at 11.85% and the COLA at 0.01%.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public Health. Ms. Brewer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 3 items for your approval this morning. The first is interim financing for the Community Youth Development, Tuberculosis Prevention and Control, and the Nurse Family Partnership grants.
Move approval of both those grants.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say I appreciate what's being done through the nurses program. That is
I'm getting very positive feedback from that.
Oh, good. Great.
Any other discussion?
Just that she might want to bring us a briefing on that program at some point.
We'd be glad to.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The second item is approval of a contract for services to provide temporary food inspection services to the city of North Richland Hills.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Have we not been providing that, or they're just asking for it on a temporary basis? Or
Have we?
we not been-
We have not been routinely providing services to them, and they've asked us to help with a special event. And Mr. Jefferson is here if you'd like more details about the event.
You noted that the term of this agreement is only several days, and it's to
Right.
cover this special event that they're having.
Okay.
Would you like to know?
What's the event?
Taste of North Texas.
It's the Taste of Northeast Tarrant. Judge, Commissioners.
We have a number of
You
our
taste a lot,
staff
huh?
involved in that.
Number of them?
A number of
One of them's head of it?
Huh?
Have we done this in the
Have I
past?
done it? Yes, I
I'm
did.
asking this with some degree of reluctance, but have we done this in the past, or have they just done it in the past, or have we just kind of oopsed it in the past?
Well, it goes back and forth between North Richland, a location in North Richland Hills and a location in Hearst.
Ah,
And we routinely do it when it's in Hearst, and North Richland Hills usually does it when it's in North Richland Hills. But this causes a bit of a disparity, if you will, for the people who are doing it. And so the event organizers contacted the city and contacted us and asked if we would do it to maintain a sort of sense of continuity for everybody.
okay, thanks. Any other questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third item is a contract for services with New Solutions, Inc. to conduct an effectiveness study of Ryan White 1 funded agencies for the Public Health Department's North Central Texas HIV Planning Council. And this is a grant deliverable to look at substance abuse services for the clients.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beecham. Mr. Beecham, as you're coming down, I would, as I recall, received a letter announcing that for the, is it the 12th year, you received an award?
Yes, sir.
And would you like to go ahead and elaborate a little bit on that award, because it's something to be very proud of, and we're very proud of your department for getting that.
Thank you very much. I understand Riddle's not an LSU fan either, by the way, but...
Well, you know, we all have our faults, and I guess that's one Ruland has.
No, we're very proud to receive for Tarrant County the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award for the 12th consecutive year. The award has been offered for 14 years. The first 2 years that it was in existence, we physically could not compete, so we didn't apply. So that is important also. It's something that it's the most prestigious purchasing award in the country. It's backed by all the major national purchasing organizations. They raise the benchmark every year. There's a cafeteria plan of 200 points that are available. And we actually applied for the largest number of points that we ever applied for before this year, and received the largest number of points that we've ever been granted. It's something that the entire department participates in. Tarrant County has got national recognition, which there are points given for hosting a cooperative purchasing program. That was never done before. That's been on the books for the last 2 or 3 years. But it's something, again, that we take a lot of pride in with our peers. It takes everybody to do it, and we take it very seriously, and we're honored to be recipient again for the 12th consecutive year. So thank you for acknowledging
Well,
that.
congratulations on that. And then I believe also last week, your department put on was it the second annual?
Yes, sir. We had the second annual How to Do Business with Tarrant County venue, which Commissioner Brooks spoke at. It's been a couple of weeks ago. At the Resource Connection, had the largest turnout we've ever had before. The year before, we had it at the Health Department, and it was the fabulous facility, as we all know, but it was so loud that people couldn't conduct their business. It's a 3-hour program when all our staff is there to answer questions and explain how to do business with Tarrant County. Again, had the largest group we've ever had. We actually got out about an hour early because people were able to, it flowed so smoothly that people are able to conduct their business, get the answers that they needed, make the contacts that they wanted, and go on and enjoy the rest of their evening. Commissioner Brooks, so appreciate you being there, and already scheduled for the 9th of July again next year, back at the Resource Connection, and just like our auctions, it's the same time every year. That brings response. People note it on their calendars, and it's a big event and something that's always important to us. So thank you again.
It was a great event, and there was a tremendous crowd of vendors there wanting to do business with Tarrant County. It was very gratifying.
Thanks again.
Thank you. We have 3 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for RFP number 2009-115. This is our annual contract for our SAP application service provider. Recommendation will be awarded to Realtek Incorporated in the amount of $342,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is another bid award recommendation for our bid number 2009-116. This is our annual contract for temporary clerical personnel. Recommendation will be to award on a per unit price basis, awarding to the primary, secondary, alternate, and secondary alternates as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third item is also a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-127. This is our annual contract for trash removal services. Recommendation will be to award on a per unit price basis, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors, again, as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any appointments today? I would like to, Jay, did you have an appointment?
No, I want to remind you.
Yes, because of some obligations both at the local level as well as outside of that, currently chairing the Transportation Council and then also going in on the COG board. I'm going to pull myself off of the Trinity River Vision, and I have talked with Commissioner Brooks and would like to nominate Commissioner Brooks to take my position on the Trinity River Vision Authority. GK is the chairman of that, but I had been also the court's representative on that. So
I'll second that.
any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the claims.
Before we leave appointments, I know I didn't get you a resume because he hadn't gotten back into town, but the Emergency Services District Board number 1 is in dire need of appointments. We only have 3 members of a 5-member board, and a lot of times they cannot get a quorum to have their meetings. And the resume will be forthcoming if you want to go ahead and make that appointment.
Yes, I will. I'll move that we approve Steve, or that we nominate, I guess, place Steve Murren on the Emergency Services Board as my appointment.
And I'll second that.
Who's the other one? He lives in Trophy.
He lives out. Oh, the other one?
Yeah.
I've got it in my briefcase. You want it?
Yeah.
Let me grab the other one. He lives out just sort of north and east of Pembroke a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's in Roy's precinct.
Okay.
And I'm going to get another one. I apologize for this.
Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson was voting yes for that, and then I think he's got another one.
And for the same board, the Emergency Services District Board, I would like to appoint Greg Heffelbein, who lives out on Shelby Road in Precinct 1.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Did we vote on both of them?
Yes.
Okay.
You have now.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure.
Well, that'll be good because I didn't. I know how hard that is to find someone who lives out in the unincorporated area. So I'm glad we were able to do that. You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval, the claims including the addendum.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have several items for the court this morning. The first briefing item concerns the NTTA presentation regarding the state of the authority. Chairman Wageman is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge Whitley, members of the court. It's great to see you all. Thank you, Mr. Manus, for the introduction. I'm here today with my colleagues from Tarrant County, from Arlington, our Vice Chairman, Victor Vandegrift, and from Fort Worth, Kenneth Barr, former mayor of Fort Worth, and they'll be joining me at the podium here shortly to give you some comments as well. I just wanted to, again, thank you for the opportunity to work closely with Tarrant County as we do our other counties in helping deliver mobility solutions for the North Texas area. This has been a very challenging year for our community, for our country, and no doubt for the NTTA as well. The economic environment in which we are operating in has affected both our toll revenue and our access to the credit markets. I am pleased to tell you, however, that the agency has come through with significant issuances of debt last year, and most recently, 2 weeks ago, where we issued $1.4 billion in debt, of which $825 million was Build America bonds, which came forward through the stimulus package earlier this year. The NTTA set the benchmark for Build America bond issuance in the country with an issuance that resulted in a interest rate of about 4.2%, so a very significant issuance for NTTA. I think it's reflective of the strength of our credit as well as the strength of this region, how well our bonds are received in the marketplace. There's still a strong sense that North Texas is a place of dynamic growth with long-term positive future. We also made significant progress in 2008 on a number of other fronts, concluding our 5-year strategic plan, continued focus on our business diversity initiative, and new engineering programs were announced for State Highway 161, design build procurement, which our board will consider tomorrow, as we continue to look for new ways to turn dirt across the region. This has been another significant month for NTTA and for our region in terms of mobility, in that we opened the $128 million Louisville Lake Toll Bridge 2 or 3 weeks ago, and just in the last week or so have opened, along with TxDOT, portions of the State Highway 161 project, which has created more mobility for the eastern part of Tarrant County. As I mentioned, I'm joined by our 2 board members from Tarrant County, both who provide a tremendous amount of time, counsel, and resource to our board and to our agency. They've been there to help make the critical decisions NTTA has had to make, and I can't tell you how much I rely on both of them for their good advice and counsel, as does our staff. Lastly, when they're concluded with their remarks, our new Executive Director, Alan Clemson, who's known to many of you, having spent a large part of his career in Dallas County as the administrator there, will give you the full presentation for our program for the last year. And, of course, the board members will be present to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Paul.
Victor?
Good morning.
Good morning. I will be brief in my comments, but I will tell you that I think my second full-time job is working on NTTA projects to deliver road projects here. I'd like to think this last year some of the things that were successful for us is that, in effect, we got out of the way of managed lanes projects, and I think that the potential for the relief for the connector and for the express is there with contracts in place, and if TxDOT and can come up with the funding for it, then I think that we'll get those things done. But so I consider that an accomplishment. We helped move that forward by not participating directly in it. And at the same time, we'll be managing those toll lanes because that's an expertise that NTTA has, so it'll be consistent, seamless driving throughout the region, and I think that's important. We are on the cusp, as Chairman Wageman mentioned, of taking up the 161 project. But equally important to us is the commitment that's been made for about 40 years, of which we've been a part of for a few years, and that's for the Southwest Parkway / Chisholm Trail. I hope we can someday address it like Mayor Moncrief would like, is it's just one road instead of 2 parts. Southwest Parkway is a road that we, by statute, are entitled to build and, or have the obligation to, and Chisholm Trail is a TxDOT road. But the commissioners and the directors of NTTA, commissioners of the Transportation Commission, all believe that those roads they have to be combined to be done. It is a high priority for both the commission and for NTTA to get those projects done. And we're hot on the trail still of 360, and hopefully soon to follow behind that is 170. All of these roads are significantly challenged in today's economic market. What you could finance a year ago, you can't finance today, and no one has any money. The good news is that we have a good credit rating and great cash flow, and the better news is we've got the attention of the commissioners in Austin and a willingness to work with us cooperatively to see how we get these roads out. And I think no promises or guarantees from us on the timing. We've done that before, and only not to make them. But I can assure you it is the top priority, and we have traffic and revenue studies in on Southwest Parkway, Chisholm Trail. Between us, the RTC, and TxDOT, be pouring over those over the next month or so, and how we close whatever gaps are there to get Southwest Parkway, Chisholm Trail moving. So with that, I'll yield the floor to my fellow commissioner for Tarrant County. I will tell you, I'm going now into my second year of my first full term. I've served 1 year, and this is the second year of this, so 2 years of this. I'm aging in dog years on this project, but am bound determined that we get roads in Tarrant County out while I'm serving on this, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work for you and with you on these projects. I feel like it's a very worthwhile endeavor, so thank you very much.
Victor, please tell your father that we said hello, and know that we're thinking about you and your family, and we know that the loss of your mother was sudden, and we all thought about you, and you're in our prayers.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. I know several of you attended the memorial service, and we thank you for that. And he's a happy warrior. He's doing great, and I'll pass on your goodwill. He does hold Judge Whitley responsible for getting me involved in toll roads, and I think all of you know of his history. He fought to get a toll road, first one in the state of Texas, and then fought equally hard to get it off. So he's not so sure about me being on toll roads, and unfortunately it taints the judge a little bit too. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor. Mayor Barr?
Good morning. I too hold Judge Whitley responsible for it. I should have known better. This has been a fascinating assignment serving on the NTTA board, and it has been an organization that's had considerable challenges. I really feel good about where we are now with Alan Clemson and the leadership he's bringing to us from the staff side. I can tell you things are changing, I would say almost on a daily basis. Appreciate all of the effort, Judge, that you and the other members of this court are putting forward to help this region address the transportation challenges that are coming. I think the residents of Tarrant County are going to come to have a greater and greater appreciation of the roads that the NTTA has built and will build in the future as Southwest Parkway and other projects come over to the western side of the Metroplex. This region is, as the projections show, is going to grow about 50% over the next 25 or so years. And unfortunately, our transportation challenges grow at the same speed or the same rate. And I believe, like toll roads or not, that toll roads are going to become something very, very critical to our ability as a region to grow and meet the mobility needs that are here. I really want to applaud Victor Vandegrift and Paul Wageman. Paul's our chair, of course, and Victor is vice chair, and the amount of effort they've put into working on the Southwest Parkway project. That project is critically important to this county, and it's I've watched it closely from a city perspective for a long time. We are making progress. We can't see the end of that trip yet. We don't know where all the money's going to come from, but we're working diligently on it. At this point, it's my privilege to introduce Alan Clemson to you. Alan is our executive director. He's been on the job about 80 days, and he brings a wealth of connections from across the Metroplex to his job at NTTA, and he, on a daily basis, is moving the agency forward, and I think we are all going to be very pleased with his staff side leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You know, and I would, before Alan, before you, I would thank each one of y'all, Victor, Paul, and Ken, for the work that you do. It is a non-paying position, and when you say it is a non-paying position, that's really not fair, because it is a costing position, because when you're over there not getting paid, you're not at your regular business producing. And the amount of hours that y'all put in, now that you're on there, I can tell you, I know it's great. And we appreciate very much the commitment you've made to this region, to this county, over the past several years, certainly in your case, Paul, and also in Victor and Ken's. Like I told Ken that, you know, this was an 8-year commitment. He just thought it was 2. It goes on forever. But we do very much thank y'all. And you must feel like it's kind of a walk in the park compared to where you came from.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, it's we've worked with Alan for years on our public employee benefit cooperative in his position as the administrator in Dallas County. Always had good enough sense to live in Tarrant County, just, you know, had to go a little east to find a job, and so we understand that.
They mean to talk to you about the taxes over here.
I know, but we're working. I keep telling Cantrell and those guys that, you know, with all the problems that they're having over there, they're going to catch them yet. So we welcome, and we're very glad to see you on the job, and are very excited about you taking in that position as executive director.
Thank you. I was telling the chairman the pressure on having to perform now is going to be kind of difficult. I mean, everybody's giving me all these nice accolades and such, so we're going to really try our best, and we are really committed to this challenge. So saying that, I do know that from experience that commissioners' courts tend to like to get through these things quickly, and I'll try to move through fast, and if there's something important that you want to talk about, stop me, and I will get to it, and we'll try to skim through this as quickly as you can, that you'll let me. We'll go to the first slide, if we could, please. The budget is for 2008 was $260 million, and we have a $300 million budget for 2009. The majority of that, almost all of that, as you can imagine, is tollways. We only have we have some small interest earnings, and we have some other revenues that's generated from fines and fees. But as you can imagine, we have to generate revenue from tolls to be able to provide you roads and services. And the next slide, we break out for you exactly our projected budget in 2008, our actual experience. In 2008, we did experience some surprises and some less than anticipated revenues, but we certainly were able to work through all those issues and provide a high quality of service in 2008. The biggest thing to the agency is on the next slide, which is our revenue versus debt. We are a debt mechanism. Our purpose is to leverage an asset that generates revenue to issue a debt so everyone can enjoy that road. And what we're showing you after our toll rate increase and our budget reductions and all the strategies that our board has put in place, we're showing you very confidently that we have adequate revenues to cover our debt plus our required coverage. It's a 1.5 to 1 coverage, and we're showing you that this agency is financially sound to move forward, to take care of those projects that it has underway and is committed to complete. The budget overview on the next page is we started off the year with a budget, and the staff immediately began to cut that budget in December 2009 of $6 million. I arrived in June, and we cut the budget again another $4.5 million. So this agency has experienced about a $10 million budget reduction, and that is to align cash to meet our ongoing needs, and it is reflected in the prior chart on a go-forward basis. We're in the middle of our budget process. Our budget is a January through December, but because of our bond covenants and our trust agreements, we have to give our board a preliminary budget in October, and that budget will be an evaluated budget with all the expenditures and proposed increases scrutinized much as this Commissioner's Court would do its budget on an annual basis.
The next slide, we talk about our toll rate increase. This, there is for those, the RTC has established a regional toll rate, and North Texas Tollway Authority has adopted that regional toll rate. Our rate will go from approximately 11 cents a mile to 14.5 cents a mile, and then every other year we will look at ratcheting that up by the 2.75% that the regional toll rate has established as the guideline. The next slide is probably one of the least important to this body, but we have 80 center lane miles of road. We will have more than 40 additional miles of road come online very shortly. We have 1.6 million toll tags. 170,000 of those toll tags are owned by and used by residents of Tarrant County, and we hope to drastically increase that number in the coming months and years. You probably heard we went to an all-electronic toll collection system. This is where we take our toll collectors and move them to other areas, and we let people move through those toll rates without reduction in speed. This is a very important from an operational savings. Our transactional cost to collect a toll is drastically decreased. It also enhances safety and reduces air pollution because people aren't waiting in line to pay tolls. Our revenue collection and our revenue assurance is going to be a very important part. The board receives a presentation Wednesday on this, on how we can maximize our collections, how we can minimize the impact of out-of-state drivers, how we can put in place mechanisms to make sure that people that come to this area rent cars and they can use our tollways without major inconvenience. This is a very, very small part of what we call our leakage. 0.1% of our revenue is from out-of-state drivers. 60% of those are from Oklahoma. So it's a very small percent, but we're going to do an interoperable agreement with Oklahoma where we can use each other's tollways. That's right on the heels of being complete. And rental cars is just a very small percentage, but we are reaching out to the rental car associations and see if we can put in place some mechanism to set a standard that all rental car agencies can use or embrace to help us collect that revenue as well. Safety is a real important issue. You've probably heard much about the wrong-way driving situation. We have a very aggressive task force that our safety engineers and the Department of Public Safety are working aggressively on. They're going to have, they've made interim changes, but the report will go to the board in September. This is a national problem, certainly a problem that's not only on tollways but on highways throughout this state and across the nation. And it's amazing of all the initiatives and issues that staff has been able to uncover that we hope to implement quickly and make sure that these roads are safe as possible. We will also in September be aligning our speed limit. They say that cars traveling the same speed in the same direction is a lot safer, and so we hope to get people's speed consistent. We have speed as slow as 55 and as high as 70, so it will be fairly much a uniform 70-mile-an-hour speed limit. Diversity is a very important issue that has come to the forefront of the North Texas Tollway Authority, and we recently briefed the board administration committee on an availability and diversity study, and some of that the presentation on that got a little misdirected. The perception is that the NTTA only spent 3% of its funding with minority subcontracting, and that was really 3% of to prime contractors of contracts that we let under $500,000. So we have tried to send out to our sponsoring counties additional information on that. But we are in a go-forward mode. We have taken immediate steps. We have to enhance our diversity participation. In 2008, our overall spending with minority subcontracting as well as primes was about 15%. We're on track this year to do better than 18%. And in September, the pre-board workshop, we're going to lay out a program for our board that's going to show our continued commitment to diversity. We're going to present concepts on capacity building and continue to reach out to our sponsoring counties that our commitment to this issue is of great importance to us. The NTTA system, as the chairman and others have said, we opened the Louisville Lake Bridge, we opened the 161 to I-30, and we're really excited about letting the design build contract from I-30 to to I-20. You can, except for a small section, take I-20 to I-30 on the frontage roads that are open, and we will start to close that gap on the frontage roads with our bridge over the UPR in the southern part. An issue that I'm sure everyone's interested in is the Southwest Parkway Chisholm Trail. The way the project stands to date is that the plans are 95 to 100% complete. We actually have worked with the Texas Department of TxDOT for them to begin letting the I-30, I-20 interchange. That should happen in the next several weeks or month, and that will progress forward. We are in the final stages of working through the details on the overpass over the UPR Railway. The board has a potential action item on their agenda for Wednesday to extend that agreement and to be consistent with the city of Fort Worth and the UPR, and to work to make sure that that project gets started on a timely basis. There's a lot of activity that's going on. As Director Vandergrift said, we do have the traffic and revenue studies in-house. We are refining those numbers. We are working on the final feasibility, and we hope to get that information out to all of our interested partners that are going to be needed to that we're going to need to work with to make this project a success. The construction, we have a brief schedule. As you see, we're showing ranges. There's so many uncertainties in the financial market today that we really just do not feel comfortable tying us down to specifics at this point, but we will get there. We'll get to a refined schedule for you as soon as we possibly can. We had the opportunity to meet with many of you in Mansfield as it relates to the State Highway 360. This is the Green Oaks Boulevard extension down to 287. It's an ideal project for the tollway. We've scheduled later, I think September 16th, a meeting with all the stakeholders, and we'll continue to meet on a regular basis to push this project forward. It's a little early to say if it is a toll project or not, but the NTTA has taken leadership, and the staff will sponsor these meetings until we find the exact direction it's going to go. We will be sending updates to all of our stakeholders on that as we make progress, so we can keep you informed. The next item is 161. We've covered that in quite a bit of details. We are, in that 183 to I-20, it will be 11 and a half miles. We will let that project Wednesday, and it will begin construction as soon as the staging and ramp up can get going.
Now, currently, you have opened the section from 183, down to
30.
To 30.
It used to be the old 19th Street exit, now is 161. You have about a mile of it that's just frontage road. You have one stop sign, and then you move forward onto the toll surface. We will be moving those stop signs out and putting in signal lights as soon as we can, and we're just really anxious to get that interchange and grade separation complete so we can make that a smooth transition right to I-30 without any.
And then you have the access roads already there all the way down to, is it past Pioneer Parkway all the way to 20 right now?
Yes, it's all the way down, but there is I believe there's an interruption at the UPR. We don't have frontage roads along over the UPR nor over the Trinity River, so there are a couple of small separations.
Okay.
And that wraps up our presentation. We can respond to questions and take a couple hours of your time to do whatever we...
Alan, what's the status of 170 and the interchange between 114 over to 170?
170 is in the environmental phase. We've slowed down our activity on that a little bit. Carrie Rogers, who is our governmental affairs officer, is here, and she's scheduling a meeting much like we had in Mansfield on 170 to bring that issue to the forefront, to see where it stands today and bring our stakeholders together. We will be increasing our efforts on that at the balance of this year, as well as we'll be recommending to the board next year to allocate some, we call it feasibility study fund monies, to continue that process to move that project along.
You indicate on your system map that the Chisholm Trail portion is still undergoing market valuation, or still in that?
We have the TNR and the feasibility on both the roads. I don't believe we're doing market valuation on either the Southwest Parkway or Chisholm Trail.
Market valuation, Judge, was waived by an NTK textile last October when we negotiated the term sheet to advance 161 Chisholm Trail South.
And that's the reason I asked, because 161 is also still indicated on that system map as undergoing market valuation.
No, and that's we'll update those maps. I overlooked that, but we're in the 161. We're in the final phases of getting that financing straightened out, and we'll have that information just very shortly.
Alan, as you know, the diversity study created quite a stir in the minority business community. It indicated, whether rightly or wrongly, that NTTA was not spending a fair share of its public dollars with minority contractors. I appreciate your attention to this issue and your being proactive in not only setting the record straight, but devising a go-forward plan to expand NTTA's involvement with minority contractors to help grow those businesses, to increase the capacity of minority contractors to become mainstream in the overall economy. I have always contended that doing business with minority contractors is not a matter of more money. It's a matter of more opportunity and recognizing the responsibility of public agencies to spend their dollars in such a way that the entire community is recognized and enhanced. You have indicated a new sense of responsibility on the part of the agency in these types of programs. We will be watching. We will be expecting reports from you as this program goes forward. As you and I discussed this morning, capacity building should be the objective of these programs. And in that line, we should encourage business models that pair majority contractors with minority contractors, such that there is a knowledge transfer that takes place along the way, and that minority contractors can thereby build their capacity. We discussed some ways to accomplish that in NTTA's procurement processes, and I want you to know that I support those fully and look forward to a better outlook as we move these projects forward. In particular, the projects on the western side of the district provide an opportunity to do substantially more business with not only minority contractors, but contractors who are based on the western side of the Trinity, and we'd like to see that as well.
Well, we appreciate your remarks, and yes, we've taken them. You know, this issue, the diversity issue, is very high on my agenda. It was high on the board's agenda when they interviewed and brought me on board. We have an advisory council that will be created the next several weeks. We will have before the board in September not only a presentation on the diversity and availability disparity study, but also our action plan, short-term, mid-term, and long-term, of how we recommend that we pursue it. I think our sponsoring counties will find it to be more than acceptable, and it will be a starting point We're not looking back. We're not trying to make excuses or statements. We're just going to tell you what we plan to do and report to you on a regular basis and the other members of this court on a regular basis how we're achieving that, and then we're prepared to take your comments and suggestions as we go forward, and we're going to work on it.
I appreciate that attitude. Secondly, I just want to emphasize on behalf of Tarrant County that there probably is no more important project in the continued growth and development of Tarrant County than the Southwest Parkway. And though we may not see right now how we're going to get there, it is critical that we do get there. This project has been on the books for 40 years, and it's time that the citizens over here see some dirt flying and know that our traffic congestion is going to ease and that we're going to open up new areas for economic development with this facility and accommodate the incredible growth of this county for the next 50 years or so.
I mean, the three projects you've got that you're looking at, the Southwest Parkway, that has also excited Johnson County and, you know, their folks, the 360, which talks about Arlington and Mansfield, and the 170, which covers the north part, are all tremendously growing areas, and I think will certainly benefit the citizens and will benefit NTTA as we go forward, and they are very critical, and I agree with Commissioner Brooks, and I know Commissioner Van Raven's way in that we need to see some dirt moving, and I think that Tarrant County for the next 10 years is going to be a whole lot of dirt moving, but we want to see a lot of it out of y'all from that standpoint as well as our other partners.
We're prepared to be a partner in this venture and do everything we can.
And we want to help, so just keep us.
We'll be back. We'll be back.
Yeah.
I've been watching the construction of 360, I think, from the time that I realized that people built roadways. It's been on the books, the extension south, since 1964. And that's when I graduated from high school, so you can do the math. But it's been a long time coming, and since the 161 and 360 will be actually the gateway to the DFW area when the completion is done. It's not only going to enhance Tarrant County and the eastern side of Tarrant County, but it will enhance the counties to the south of us as well. And the predicted growth that COG is using now is just amazing. It will grow at the rate of about 1 million people every 7 years. And that's huge. It's beyond comprehension, actually. And you made me think of something a very long time ago. Grand Prairie did not have access except at the Beltline entry to I-30. And I was a part of a public relations blitz back then to get access, and it shows me climbing over a fence on Northwest 19th Street, and now we call it 161, and we're still talking about access. So it's been a long time coming, and it's exciting to see the partnership that is developing with NTTA now.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all. Any other questions? Thank you very much, all of y'all, for coming out today, taking the time, and come back and visit soon. Thank you. Thank y'all.
Members of the court, we could go to item D. This is a presentation that the court had requested. It concerns the Public Health, HIV Administration and Planning Office. Ms. Drake is here to address the court at this time.
Are you sure? Oh, yep, there she comes. I saw everybody, they were all heading out. I thought, okay, now somebody's got to turn up this.
I was trying to do the path of least resistance by not coming through the front, and then I get caught up in the traffic back there. Good morning, almost lunchtime.
Most people have a tendency to be in the traffic, so it's a...
Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Margie Drake. I'm the HIV Grants Manager, and this is Jamie Schultz. He's the HIV Planning Council Coordinator. We're going to kind of tag team on this presentation a little bit. The first slide for you just shows you kind of the service area of where we are. We have 8 grants that we're responsible for. We cover 38 counties with all of those grants, which is 33,000 square miles. So if you made it into a state, we'd be the 11th largest state in the U.S. It's a pretty big geographic area. We have, like I just said, 8 grants. We have some that are federal. They come from Health Resources and Services Administration, which is HRSA, and the others come from the state or the Department of State Health Services, and we call it DSHS for short. And there's some intents behind these grants. For instance, Part A, Part B, and state services are from date of diagnosis into death. Part C, the primary goal here is through medical services. Part D is women, infant, children, youth, and families. Part F is called Minority AIDS Initiative funding, so it's mostly for minorities to receive services, minority clients. And HOPWA is for housing services. Our HOPWA that we are in charge of is only for the counties outside of our 4-county, what we call emergency, emergency, God, whatever, just went blank, our local area of our 4-county area, and so the HOPWA that we have is a smaller amount of money. The funds that we don't control in our area are the Fort Worth HOPWA, which is for the 4-county area. It's the biggest pot of money for the HOPWA. We don't do prevention, and we don't do testing. Those are done.
Who controls that Fort Worth HOPWA money?
The city of Fort Worth.
For a 4-county area?
Yes. It's the big chunk of money. I know that there's money that goes out into Weatherford for AIDS Resources of Rural Texas.
Why is the city of Fort Worth the grant recipient for those funds?
The HOPWA money is managed by HUD, and HUD has their inner agreements with the cities for their various housing programs, so they hook right directly to like the Section 8 housing and stuff like that. So it comes as a condition out of the Housing and Urban Development. So it's a decision at the federal level.
And we actually had our little pot of money, I think, before they had their big pot of money. And then we also don't control or administer the Weatherford and Abilene Part C grants. They have their own money, the AIDS Resources of Rural Texas. And this graph will just show you our funding. We have about $7.7 million that we are responsible for, and the majority of that funds goes out to clients to have services. The administrative agency, that's the part that I work with. We identify subcontractors through competitive bid process. We create contracts when we have identified those agencies. We monitor for grant compliance, and we have to make sure that people follow the federal, the state, and local policies and procedures. And those are pretty fluid, so sometimes it creates a lot of interesting aspects. We also ensure that not only are we providing services, that we provide quality services. So we do that by monitoring. Again, part of the processes for the administrative agency is we do grant writing. So we have to compete to the federal government, and we do non-competitive grants with the state government for the funding that we have. So every dollar that we bring in, we're filling out applications or writing grants. We do our subcontractor selection process. Like I said, that's competitive on the majority of our grants. We do grant management activities. We do monitoring, and luckily we don't have very many grievances, but we do have grievances occasionally. We have an external grievance committee appointed by the county judge. We have an external review committee also appointed by the county judge, and I just wanted to give you some information on that external review committee. If you look at the middle column, it tells you the epi data. That is based on the known cases of living HIV and AIDS cases are in our 38 county region. We have 75% are men, 25% are women. And of that same population, you can see the demographics for the ethnicity. 36.4% are African American, 14.2% are for Latino, 48.04% are for white, and 1.33% are other. Now, not that it's mandated by the state nor by the federal government, but what we strive to do is to make all of our committees reflective of our population. So the next column over the last column shows you the representation of our external review committee. And this review committee are the ones who actually read those competitive bids or competitive proposals and help us, Tarrant County, determine which agencies will receive funding. As you can see, we have 32% or 6 men on that committee. We have currently 68% women. 13 of the committee are women. And then you can see the demographic breakdown as well. We have 63% are African American, 5% are Latino, 32% are white, and we do not currently have any Asians or other ethnicities on that committee.
With regards to that, I mean, in trying to be reflective, as openings come, then you're going to try to make that, I mean, you've obviously got the men and women backwards there.
You know, I've been doing this for a long time, about 18 years, and for some reason the volunteer support for HIV and AIDS seems to be predominantly women with a little bit of sliver for men. And we do a big push, and we'll see what happens. I do try to be reflective of both men and women and ethnicities, and so this is how our current makeup is. In fact, there are a couple of new people coming across your desk. Unfortunately, all of them are women. So here's some subcontractor issues. If you were going to become a new subcontractor, or some things that you might want to have in the back of your mind, a current subcontractor or someone new coming to the table, all of our grants have administrative caps. The majority of our grants have a 10% cap on administration. That means that 90% of the funding have to go to direct client services. We have something called the 75-25 mandate. The federal government and the state, on the majority of our grants, have this thing called 75% of our funding has to be spent in core medical services. Only 25% can go to non-core services. And when you think of non-core services, a lot of times things come to your mind like, it used to be, they would say dog walking and some of these really crazy things that we at Fort Worth have never done. But non-core services are things that you and I consider to be very essential. Food is a non-core service. Case management is a non-core service. So there's some things in that 75-25 that a lot of people think automatically should be in the 75%, and it's not. So I want to make sure that that's clear as well. But that is a restriction that we can't control.
75% medical. Describe medical.
Medical could be the actual primary care visit, dental services, medical case management, psychological services, substance abuse services. Those make up medical. Transportation is a non-medical service. It's a non-core service.
One of my concerns, I understand that this is a federally mandated ratio, but one of my concerns is that HIV and AIDS are continuing to spread like wildfire.
Yes, sir.
And one of the ways that we had begun to get a handle on the spread of HIV and AIDS was through prevention and education efforts in the communities at large. That had the effect of holding down the rate of spread for a long time. Then the feds changed their funding model such that those programs were de-emphasized and the money was redirected to medical services. That has had the effect of fanning the fires and increasing the spread of AIDS. How do we go about increasing funding for prevention and education activities such that we've got some ability to rein in the rate of new infections?
In my office, we don't have any controls per se on that, but luckily Jamie actually is the co-chair for the state on the HIV CPG. You might want to say something about that.
Right. What you say is correct. I mean, any prevention efforts really pay off, and what you have to no longer contribute in services. Again, going back to one of the earlier slides Margie put out there, unfortunately, Tarrant County government and Margie's program do not have any control or involvement with prevention. That comes from the CDC. That's completely separate. They do not come through our offices at all. So that is a completely different funding stream, different mandates, different way that it operates. So as far as prevention efforts...
So where do the prevention dollars go and who operates
the state of Texas.
program?
The state of Texas receives those. They come directly from the state of Texas, DSHS, and the state. They then have their competitive process that then determine the agencies locally to be funded for prevention. So they don't come through the Tarrant County system, nor do they come through Margie's office. They come directly from the state of Texas, Austin.
Are they coming to the county?
Yes.
Who is getting those dollars as they come to the county?
Right now, in Tarrant County, the agencies funded to do HIV prevention are Planned Parenthood, AIDS Outreach Center, Health Education Learning Project, and one other in Weatherford, ART, AIDS Resources for Rural Texas. Yeah, they're the ones who receive prevention funding. They apply competitively to the state. The state then determines who gets their funding. Now, what I can say locally, what Margie's office and the Planning Council have really tried to do to help increase the prevention efforts. Again, we have no money that funds prevention. We never have had money that funds prevention that came through HRSA or Ryan White money. There is, in fact, it's almost forbidden that you can use your money for prevention. They said that's doubling what CDC is already paying for. So what we've really done is encourage a collaboration with our case managers, our outreach workers, and our peer advocates or peer patient navigators to become trained and hooked in with all the prevention programs, so that through what we can do is making sure that when we're reaching people out there that we're having prevention messages, we're knowing prevention services, they're trained in the interventions. There's a lot of evidence-based interventions that are counseling-based that our case managers have jumped into. So they're working hand in hand. But as far as prevention or HIV testing, that money comes completely through the state. It doesn't go through any system here. It comes directly from Austin to AIDS Outreach Center or Planned Parenthood.
Do you have anyone on the External Review Committee from the AIDS Outreach Center?
No.
That'd be a conflict.
We don't allow people that are conflicted to be on the External Review or External Grievance Committee, and a conflicted person would be someone that's on the board for or works for an agency, so they're not allowed to be on our External Review or External Grievance Committees. They could be on the Planning Council, but they can't be on the body that helps them decide who gets the funding.
I made a very, very big error when I was naming the agencies, and I apologize. Tarrant County Public Health also receives quite a bit of money for HIV prevention, so I'm sorry. I apologize, Ms. Brewer.
So the Planning Council that you just mentioned, they actually set the priorities for the area?
Yes, sir, and we're going to get to that.
Okay.
You want to just wait a second for that? Is that okay?
I will.
Okay.
Could you reiterate what those top 5 agencies were? Planned Parenthood, Tarrant County Public Health?
Is for prevention? Yes, yes. Tarrant County Public Health, Planned Parenthood of North Texas, AIDS Outreach Center, Health Education Learning Project, and AIDS Resources of Rural Texas.
Some other issues that we may have with subcontractors coming on board or current subcontractors is that we require a particular database that the state imposes on us. And no matter where our funding comes from, we require all of our providers to put in all of their services into what we call our ARIES database. So every unit of service is captured by a client in that database. We also require them to serve a large geographic area. Even our local county hospital, JPS, we require them to serve individuals from all of our counties. So we have special permissions through their HIV and AIDS clinic that clients can be served regardless of what county they live in. These agencies must come...
Clients do bring a monetary stream with them.
Sometimes. Sometimes it's all funded by us, and sometimes they have private pay or partial pay. Some of our, if it's a clinic, they offer sliding scales, so sometimes clients are charged based on a sliding scale as well. The agencies have to compete amongst each other for the various funding. Our grants are written to where our RFPs or requests for proposals we put on the street, they compete by service category by grant. So if an agency wants to provide 12 services, they'll write 12 applications to us so that the funding is decided by service category, so it's not by agency as a whole. And with having so many grants, we have 7 grants that have agencies on them. That means that all 7 grants have their own rules and regulations, and many of them have different grant cycles and different rules. This chart right here shows you, the blue line will show you the general population estimates for 2008. The red lines are going to indicate to you the living cases of HIV and AIDS. And the green lines are going to show you the clients that we currently serve or have in our database. If you look at it, for instance, when you look at, let's look at white first, you can see that we have 46.12% of the general population, of the HIV population is white. 38% of whom we serve is white as well. There seems to be a slight gap in the services of who we know are positive and how many people we serve. That gap can be identified as probably there are people in private insurance, people who may be in the VA system versus our system. They may be in Medicare or Medicaid and not in our system. And there may be...
Is the blue...
The blue is the general population.
Just the general population?
General population of our four-county area. So...
Of AIDS patients?
The blue is of the general population.
Total population.
Total population.
Okay.
And then the red is of those who are infected with HIV and AIDS. The red shows you by ethnicity the breakout. And then the green shows you of the clients in our database, the ones that we serve and that we provide services to.
So how can we be serving more than what we believe are living with HIV/AIDS?
Well, part of this can be based on the numbers that we get. The red numbers are from the state, and those can be that when you are diagnosed in the county in which you reside at the time, and you may move to an area to receive services. So you're looking at blacks, so maybe someone was diagnosed in Dallas or Houston and then moved back to Fort Worth and they're receiving services here.
Okay.
And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jamie, but I'll still be here for questions.
I think this slide is easier read by your handout than on the screen, but it really shows the cycle and what Margie was indicating. The cycle starts and stops with consumers. We do a lot of our work starting with the current need, assessing the need, looking at the data, both hard data and then qualitative data to determine who is the most risk, who is most need, and what is the most needed services. From that, a plan is written, an assessment is written, and that is passed on to the administrative agency, which Margie indicated she applies for different grants. We're very fortunate in this area to have 8 grants that we have to work with to provide services, helps coordinate them. We believe we're the only county or the only area in the entire nation that all the Ryan White grants are coordinated under one centralized administrative agency. Like right now in Dallas, there are 4 administrative agencies that run their grants, where then they don't often talk to each other or see each other, but we're able to look at them all. But once she applies for the funding, it's received. We go through the process of them finding out who can deliver the services. Those services are funded and then monitored for both the grants monitoring, as Margie indicated, but also the evaluation of the effectiveness of the grants, how they are, the intended outcome, are they reaching what we needed, is it affecting the population? We go back to the population, look at it, and see where we're headed. So the cycle continues, which allows us to look at it. And again, with the coordination of 8 grants, it allows us to look at the funding sources from all directions and be able to pick up and not duplicate. This is just an overall slide, but there's truly a legislative mandate as to the different roles between the Planning Council and the administrative agency. The government purposely sets those up as separate kind of balance and check parts, but they're definitely players and cooperative in the game. So this is really what the roles are of the two. As far as the Planning Council, as with Margie's External Review Committee, the Planning Council is mandated by the federal government. It must consist of community volunteers. We must be reflective of the HIV population within the region. We must have, the government has told us that there's 15 particular professions they want to see represented on the council, because they want that voice coming in and out. For example, one of them would be a person who represents the Medicaid system has good knowledge of that. A person who represents its knowledge of the housing system. They want certain scientists that have certain epidemiological backgrounds. We have that. So we have to meet those. Plus, we have to have our council be at least 33% HIV-positive consumers. Right? Again, the process is really listed there, that they are appointed by the chief elected officer, which in this case is the judge, after the nomination selection process. We do our work through committees, and listed below are the various committees that we have that conduct the work. Our responsibilities are to empower consumers to be part of the process. We're real pleased that in our council we have actually 40% of our members are consumers, very involved, not only as a member of the committees and the council, but they also are in leadership roles. Our new vice chair is a consumer from Fort Worth, so he's a new person in it. But we conduct a comprehensive needs assessment. It's a larger one, but we also conduct quite a few studies throughout the year based on needs. From those studies and studies done at the state, we then create a comprehensive plan that gives us a roadmap as to where we want to be and how we need to be there. We then set the priorities, what's needed to help meet the needs in that plan, allocate funds, and by us allocating funds, we do not look at funding of agencies or funding that we're going to get from the government. This is the funding we feel we need to do to get the job done. So we create these budgets. From those is what Margie submits to the federal government for funding. When it comes back, as we know most of the time, it doesn't come back at 100% what we requested. We then have to reallocate to different service categories. But we do not fund to agencies. The Planning Council looks at a service category. It says this is what is needed. We then look at evaluating the effectiveness of the plan, conducting an annual evaluation of our process. Did the process work? Is it a good process? Is it something to speed up, the allocations of funds? So,
this gets to the crux of what I was interested in. If you could go back to the bar graph that had the that one. If you look at the African American demographic, you'll see that African Americans are 12.38% of the population of the four-county area. It also tells you that African Americans are 38.08% of AIDS cases, a tremendous disparity. What I want to know is what the AIDS Planning Council has done in terms of adopting its priorities that would address that disparity.
Right. Well, the disparity for HIV infection, again, that's prevention, and what we've done with that is really trying to make sure those programs that work in settings where prevention can occur or where people that are at high risk would go to, that we're having them involve themselves in prevention activities. So we've done that.
The answer is that's not my job.
Not really. It is our job because we've taken that on by adding that to outreach, adding that to peer advocacy, adding that to case management roles that really would have not been their jobs unless we said, let's make this part of our job. So we really have. We've actually asked that they take the trainings that prevention offers to be part of their, and it's not actually certification, but it's part of the qualifications to be able to do their work. So prevention for the regional prevention, we have taken that on and taken on very seriously. As far as working with providing services to make sure we're meeting the populations that are most impacted, I think that chart tries to help show that we've really taken on to this very serious. We've really indicated this, that this is our goal. And we do know we have a lot more to do. Okay, and in our comprehensive plan, we've listed a list of areas that we feel we need to work on as a region to help even better reach the needs of people out there.
What are some of those?
Well, part of it is working with the legislation to help them understand that 75-25 often removes a lot of the access services that we really need to have as part of it. And as we all know, case management, outreach are very large parts of what we have to do. Well, those were put into this new 25% cap that affected us. So we've been working with the government to try to see how can we let people know, let legislation know that this is not something that is working for clients at highest risk. And we're actually, with the reauthorization coming up, that is the one big area that is happening right now, is they're looking at case management in particular to see if we can expand case management to be broader than just a medical, clinical case management.
You're talking about the reauthorization of Ryan White?
The extension of the reauthorization, yes. And that's the one it expires at the end of September, the legislation.
But in effect, what I think Commissioner Brooks is saying is that because prevention is coming down through other sources, whatever prevention or education you use in that regard almost has to be a secondary service that you're providing at the same time that you're providing the medical side and or the services side of that deal.
You're correct. We've been very innovative, I think, in trying to make sure that we're adding the prevention into the services side. And in the legislation, we're trying to work to make sure that we are allowed to be able to do a lot more as far as access and prevention.
GK, I'd like for us to be able to make a case to our federal representatives as they consider the reauthorization of Ryan White that we need some relief on that 75-25 formula, that ratio, such that we can direct dollars to prevention services in this community rather than being locked into a rigid formula, that we can do what's best for this local community.
Now, is most of that money coming out of the national side? I mean,
yes,
we need to be working at that also from the NACO side of that deal.
That's correct.
It all is coming from federal. And we need to work quickly, as September 30th is when this expires. And that's when the entire legislation expires, so we're working with them on that.
I don't know that they're going to get to that with health care reform, health insurance reform.
Health insurance reform.
They may extend it until they get that out of the way. So we may have some time, and I'd like to see us weigh in on this issue. GK. Sure.
Just to finish up here, this is a chart similar to the one that Margie provided, but this shows you the makeup of the Planning Council membership in the same way that Margie does, to show our reflectingness in the various areas. And again, 40% of our council members are consumers, which is greater than what we're requested to be.
Now, this is where you do have folks from, you could have folks from the AIDS Outreach Center.
Yes,
You're doing a lot better on your statistics on this graph.
Well, yes, we can have service providers serve on our planning council, just they have to realize when there's a conflict of interest might be at stake. But since we don't deal directly with agency funding, it doesn't happen often. And then these are various populations that have been emerging that we are really looking to reach and reach out to. I think just as we were talking about, the outreach is one thing we really want to continue to work with, using some patient navigator type programs, peer advocates they might be called, working with various populations in their regions to help ensure that we can get services provided. The prevention links, again, we've been talking about that quite a bit, so these are our goals here. And then we have some specific populations that have been emerging that have been of concern. One is that we are testing a lot of Hispanic populations that they're testing HIV positive, and within a month later they're testing with AIDS, which means it's late into testing, late into care. So we've been working with the emergency room on that because that seems to be where they're testing. We're seeing a lot of now care issues surrounding people who have aged with HIV. People with HIV for 15 years or longer are developing a lot of different conditions we've never seen, so we're having to work with that issue. Dr. Parker at Tarrant County Public Health has been very, very instrumental in helping us with that. We're now seeing a lot more HIV-positive women giving birth. There was at one time that was almost a taboo thing to think, but that's reality because we can give a lot of care to having a person give birth that's not HIV positive. So we're working with a lot more on that. Again, the people coming through incarceration system continues to be there. and then the substance-using populations that we've been really seriously looking at right now.
And those are two areas that we severely need some education and prevention services because the partners of these individuals coming out of the criminal justice system very often do not know the HIV status of that person. It's almost what goes on in the correction system stays in the correction system, and they come out and don't disclose to their partners what their status is, and you can see the implications of that.
And that's why these two, and that and the substance populations are very high on our list. Right. This is just a calendar that we put together as to when our meetings, both the meetings Margie coordinates and the meetings I coordinate, happen, and then the contact information for us. But we thank you for always supporting us and for being very involved. I mean, I'm really glad to hear that you're involved in HIV issues as we are. Right now it's easy to let the HIV kind of disappear, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to ask an additional question. You're not getting off the hook quite so easy.
Oh, okay.
The Minority AIDS Initiative funding.
Yeah.
What percentage of overall funding is that, and where do those dollars go?
Let's go back to the slide up here. It's actually on one. MAI, in this particular case, is the dark purple, the darkest one on the slide.
It's 224,000 out of 7.7 million.
That's Part F?
That's Part F.
And where do those dollars go?
Right now, it's going to case management, it is going to outreach, and it's going to some medical care, primary medical care. It's split between those three categories.
Who's providing those services?
AIDS Outreach Center, Tarrant County Public Health, and JPS.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Members of court, we are going to postpone the briefing on item C. We'll bring that back to you September 1. If we could go now to item D. This is legislation regarding the building standards in the unincorporated area. Mr. Mendez is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning. I'll be very brief. This last session, the Texas Residential Construction Commission was abolished by the legislature, and with it, Title 16 of the Property Code, which provided in the unincorporated areas of the state for the enforcement of international building code, international residential building codes. With that action, it left everybody in the unincorporated areas vulnerable to unscrupulous builders who may not choose to build up to current standards. A bill during the middle of the session was identified that was initially applicable only to El Paso County, and it was expanded to now apply to counties of a population greater than 100, which is 253 or 243 of the 253 of the 254 counties. It allows the counties who adopt a resolution to enforce this new subchapter of the local government code to require inspections of builders, to require them to file a notice with the county of the location, the approximate date of completion, and the version of the code that will be applied to that structure. It requires the builder to then contract for 3 separate inspections if it is new construction, or if it is an expansion of an existing facility, or inspections at the appropriate times. And then it requires, upon completion of the structure, that the builder submit those inspections to the county, where we will keep the record, and as well as to the prospective buyer of that particular piece of property. So those are the 3 things required by the builder. The county would therefore only be a keeper of the notice and the actual inspections. Failure to submit those notices is a Class C misdemeanor, and the county may also file injunctive relief against the builder for failure to submit those notices and for failure to comply with the building code that is responsible.
When does this law go into effect?
It goes into effect September 1st for new construction after that date.
So I have visited with a private inspector that does this contracting with subcontractors and contractors, and we almost have to do something. We can't just leave it in limbo. And I've got a meeting scheduled with them, two of them. One of them is the instructor for the one that helps them get ready to issue the license this Friday. And they would be happy to come down and make a presentation to the court if we need additional information on this. But we've got to do something or else we're going to have substandard building all over this county and no control. It's going to make all of our builders look bad, the good builders along with those that aren't so good.
I'd like to get a presentation or have him come by my office at some point.
No, I'd like for to come to court.
Well, I've got a meeting with them Friday. I tried to get them here today, and their schedules wouldn't allow it. But I think we could get this gentleman that's been in the business for a long time to come up and make a presentation to the court and answer questions that we might have. But we need to move on it rather quickly because September the 1st is soon.
Our next meeting.
2 weeks from
Mark,
now.
I got a couple of questions. Does this bill allow a county to issue a certificate of occupancy?
No, sir.
And it also doesn't allow us to collect any revenues.
No fees are associated, and this is not prospective. They're not coming in for permission to build. They are simply providing us notice of an intent to build.
So we have a standard that they're to build to, which is the International Building Code standard?
There are two versions of it, and part of the notice that they intend to construct will be telling us which standard they intend to apply.
When they get red tagged, okay, the inspector goes out and has a problem, who's the enforcement agent?
The county is. We have injunctive enforcement authority.
Who pays for the inspector?
The builder does.
The builder does.
And they pick the inspector.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, it's going to be chaos. But
We need the authority to issue a certificate of occupancy that's tied to the issuance of electrical service, is what we need.
In 2 years, we might be able to get it.
Okay, I understand.
For the next 2 years.
That's what we need.
Yes, sir. I will tell you that there were some efforts to put those types of provisions into the bill, but it was such a last-minute effort that we were lucky to get this out. It only passed the House on a vote of 72 to 71.
Okay, so let me be sure I understand. Effective September 1st, if a builder begins building subsequent to August 31st, then they're required to, 1, notify us that they're building, 2, select a building standard, one of 2 building standards that they're going to comply with. We get to select an inspector.
No. The builder hires the inspector. It's an inspector that has to that is qualified in the statute. There are certain types of people that are qualified, and he picks that person.
we really have no authority
None.
other than to establish one of these building codes.
Well, we don't even have the ability to do that. They just tell us which one they're going to pick.
There's the International Residential Code, and then there is a version that may have been in place prior to the International Residential Code. They're comparable, but they are the standard that the builders across this state have adopted and are generally comply with.
So when a builder in the unincorporated area decides, I'm going to build a house, who knows it?
Right now, nobody.
Well,
and so how are we going to know?
Glenn, if they don't have a sewer system, they've got to get a, quote, septic permit.
Yeah, I see the difference.
If they don't have a driveway, they've got to have a culvert.
Not in precinct 3.
They're not going to get a culvert. You drive through ditches out there.
They have to get a culvert permit or a driveway permit.
We just don't.
From us. We just don't put it.
But we're not going to build it for them.
Yeah. So at least we know that they've requested it.
They're not driving through ditches. That's what I'm glad to know.
So, and you've got to hook them up to a sewer line or to a septic tank. And you have to certify that.
Once.
Well, if they're in a subdivision that's served by a sewer system, then we're probably not involved. Because that sewer system's either private or Fort Worth or maybe there's some subdivision that's in some other city's ETJ.
I'm trying to figure out in those instances, if a builder decides to build a home, if not, maybe the culvert permit gets us, or at least lets us know that something's being built. But if they're hooking on to an existing sewer system, we won't know about it. And so really that making sure that if somebody requests a culvert permit, we better be dogging to make sure that they eventually file plans with us.
Plus, we'll have the plating issue. We have subdivisions that go up in the unincorporated area. They will file their plats with the county.
But if it's not in a subdivision, if it's just some guy building a house on his land.
This is not going to be an easy thing to enforce.
That would be an exception.
How?
If a builder is building a home that he intends to occupy, he doesn't have to comply.
Right. He can do whatever he wants to. So why did this get initiated? What was the problem that this resolved?
You had an agency that basically did away with, and the reason it was done away with is because it was deemed to be the builder's agency in the first place, and you didn't have any consumers that were happy with at all with any of the results that were coming out with that particular agency, and so they sunsetted it. They just did away with it.
We'll all be happier.
Yeah. No, everybody's going to be happy. And
This is a good start, but it's not a good finish yet.
No.
No, sir. What we will bring back to the court is an order that is required if we intend to adopt this, and then we will need to identify which county department is going to be the repository for those notices and inspections.
Is there any way we can provide a list of qualified inspectors and or regulate or put any requirements on those inspectors at all?
Not under this provision as it exists.
I believe, though, that all of these inspectors have to have some sort of a state license, don't they?
Yes, sir, they do. They have to comply. There are standards that are set in the statute for who is qualified to be such an inspector. Architects, inspectors licensed with the Texas Real Estate Commission, a plumbing inspector employed by a municipality, a building inspector employed by a political subdivision, an individual certified as a residential combination inspector by the Code Council.
So you mean a plumbing inspector can inspect a house and say that it's okay for electricity?
Well, no, they...
Mr. Jefferson, why don't you come on up here, because you look like you got a world of knowledge. You're just
And we're just kind of
waiting to
guessing at
impart.
everything.
While he's coming, do we know what the fiscal impact of this is for Tarrant County? How big an unfunded mandate this is?
Well, what they're going to say to you is you don't have any cost associated with it, because all you got to do is be a storage place for all these inspections. Now, we all know that's not going to be the case, but at least that's going to be the argument they will have made, is we're not putting any hardship on you. All you got to do is hold on to the records.
And it's permissive legislation. We don't have to do this at all.
We don't.
We don't, but we
Mr.
do.
Jefferson.
Please enlighten
Okay,
us.
well, you've hit on several things, and Joe's hiding back here, too. We've been talking about this. There are, as you mentioned, 2 or 3 places where the county gets involved with people building things. One being an on-site sewage facility, but you already mentioned that if they happen to be in an unincorporated area but are able to get to some sort of a centralized sewer system, we don't get them. If they're good about telling us that, great. There are still people that bootleg them. There's the permits for doing culverts. Hopefully we know about them from that as well. So there are places where people doing new construction do touch us. Some counties have what they call a development permit. And I'm not about to get into the legal bits and pieces of what we can and can't do in that. But they do that as a way of sort of consolidating all of these different things. So from a building standpoint, whether you're a homeowner or a builder, it gets to be a little bit of a question of who do I have to talk to about this, who do I have to talk to about this, who do I have to talk to about this. And sometimes they will have a centralized way of doing this. And that way when you're communicating amongst all of the people, when one person finds out about it, everybody finds out about it, you might say. Those things are functions for which the county does accept fees. If you're going to think about doing this, about the best way that we can think of it is to sort of meld it in with this, if you will, because you've already got people who are handling paperwork. My staff, somebody comes in, they want to get a new on-site storage facility for their house. We're checking to see that they've been platted or that they're on an existing piece of ground. We're looking at several things already. And so, helping us have a little bit more resources, we're already 2/3 of the way there. So if you were to decide that this needs to be done, between us, there's some commonality that would be help to ameliorate the problem. Personal note, through the years of doing this, I've been doing this for more than I like to say, I will tell you there's some things that get built out in counties that you wouldn't believe. I've seen a 5-story house that I think was 18 feet by 20 feet. It never got finished, thank God. But you could stand on the top in the wind, and the whole thing moved like this. It was one room, 5 stacks high.
Okay, let's, I think where we need, with y'all's approval, I would suggest that we do a couple of things. GK, I would suggest that you bring back to us a presentation, possibly the first meeting of September, if possible. Sure. And let's address this, Ray, let's address this possible new development fee or permit or... Well, why don't you see if you can't find a way to say yes instead of so rapidly saying no?
They've asked for years.
Let's continue to look at it.
Sure, we will.
And let's see what we can find out, and maybe if your guy can be available.
I'll find out Friday if they are or not.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's going to be September 1st before we get here. I hear everybody up here at least probably saying we're going to do it. We're not going to shirk that, and kind of bail out of that responsibility, and so that means we're going to have some recommendation as to how we're going to proceed.
And, Your Honor, that's why we brought it as a briefing item, because we wanted to make sure before we did the order and everything to bring it to you that there was consensus on the court that you wanted to move forward with this.
I think that I don't hear anybody saying we don't want to move forward, so let's see what we can do to be there.
Did Joe have something to say?
Well, I was just going to address Commissioner Fickus. You had mentioned about a certificate of occupancy. Right now, we do get phone calls for those from people wanting to hook up to electricity, and we issue a letter of no occupancy, basically stating we don't have that authority. However, everything is in place.
Tell them we do.
For that.
Oh, that's good.
David, maybe one of these things where it's going to be better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Well, that's what's going to happen when they get their house built, and then how can we inspect it then? Once you pour the concrete, it's too late to do the inspection on the farms and what have you, and whether everything's done properly under it, it's just goes on and on. So,
the only thing I could see on that is that, Commissioner Johnson, is that if we enact this ordinance, and if you have a builder who doesn't build to that ordinance, then there may be some way that a homeowner could go against that builder if they intentionally didn't build to the standards,
or against an inspector who gave quote unquote ability to go forward and shouldn't have.
Did a halfway inspection.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
It's not pretty, but it's going to be better than nothing, and we need to do something out to protect our homeowners.
Well, GK, if you want to come out at 10 o'clock Friday morning, you're welcome.
Okay.
This meeting I'm going to have.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready to move forward? We have one right there.
Schedule.
Okay, we're now going to move to item E. This is an update, the monthly update from the hospital district. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
You sure you want to come up now, Mr. Early?
Well, I think when I listen to y'all get into the minutia of a sewer line, I'm pleased with JPS board meetings sometimes. So we don't have to deal with those tough issues as y'all do. So I have a lot of respect for y'all and the tough decisions y'all have to make. Tough decisions coming for JPS is dealing with the budget. And I wanted to announce to y'all, and certainly anybody that would like to attend, it appears that on September 15th we will have another special called budget workshop. They used to call them budget retreats, but I think they had fun then. They're more budget workshops now. So on September 15th, that's going to be a special call meeting. It'll be, I think, at 5:30 at night, and we'll go until whatever time it takes to discuss the budget, and then we will probably come back at our September 17th regular scheduled meeting and vote out the budget at that time. In the meantime, it's our intention with the staff at JPS to come to you individually as court members and give you a briefing on where we are. We did a roll-up, and that roll-up included everybody's wish list, and that wish list was very expensive. And so we are now paring back and scaling back. One of the things that I'll give you an individual briefing on is we've increased staffing in a lot of areas significantly, because I would argue to you that staffing had been stymied before. And we have increased staffing. We need to work on efficiency very much, but we will continue to go about that process. The other thing is we've had far greater demands in the last year upon JPS. As you well know, because I've reported to you, our connection patients have grown from 32,000 to about 52,000. But just in our ED alone, last year at this time, we were averaging 185 people a day presenting in our emergency department. Those were presenting and being seen. Now we're at 245 people a day presenting in our emergency department. The other thing...
Robert, do you have any idea, I'm sure you keep this data somewhere, of those people, the percentage that could be treated in urgent care or in clinics?
That's what we're trying to do. In fact, Commissioner, we expanded our urgent care to take care of that. We expanded them by providers, and we expanded their physical space.
Right.
So I can provide you that breakdown. We do when we try to do early triage, and we try to do early screening to move those people in different directions. What's happening is, and we don't have the statistics on it, can't prove it, but it appears what's happening is happening to other hospitals, is people may lose their jobs or people may have reductions in their benefits and are using the ED even that much more for primary care visits.
Right. That's what I was wondering if you have...
And we don't have it empirically yet, but we're already starting to see it. We've increased, last month was a record-setting month for our emergency department. We saw 7,000 patients in a month in our emergency department. And the other thing is, which is a good note, last year at this time, 21% of the people coming to our emergency room never got seen because they left and went to another facility. We have now captured those people, and we are attending to their needs. Our left without being seen rate was 21.4% last year at this time. We've now reduced it to 9%. I was even more proud because we had it all the way down to 5.9% before July. But the demand of July hit, and we bounced back up to 9%. But we're still in single digits, and we still reduced it by 50%. So JPS is seeing more people that it didn't normally see. We're also seeing increases in our clinics. At the same time we're seeing increases, the federal government certainly is telling us about reductions in tobacco fee settlements. We received about 12.5% this year, 12.5 million. We'll get about 6 million next year. So all those things mean for a little bit more of a difficult budget. I'll also tell you that this organization has had a financially centric budget. The finance department said, here's how much money you get, go, do it. We're now asking our directors and our vice presidents to figure out how to make reductions, how to make efficiencies, and how to improve programs. So that's not something they've been asked to do in the past to any great extent.
So some of those administrators we're having to mentor and we're having to work with and try to get them to understand what they need to do and how to do it. So those are just some of the things. I'll keep you all up to date on the budget. I'll come and present to you. We also can't take 2 steps backwards. We have improved patient care. I think we've done a good job of it. Can we be more efficient? Yes. But I don't think we should just stop. I think we're going to have to make reductions in some areas so we can improve patient care in others. And that's what our intention is to do.
We appreciate the board and we appreciate all the work y'all are doing. I would just mention a couple of things. Last week we got a upper tax rate proposal that was above the current tax rate. I would suggest that we center on the current tax rate and not on anything above that. We have proposed, and I think will eventually pass, a no increase in our employees and really everybody in the county government as far as their salaries go. I would hope that y'all would follow suit to that extent at the hospital. I just think that the community is experiencing some tough financial times, and I think it's just appropriate that we reflect that as we go forward into our budgeting process.
I not only appreciate your comments, I agree with them, and I think that's going to be the position that we're going to be in. The other thing is, and I've talked to Mr. Manius, it appears that our finance department may have sent over numbers that were calculated incorrectly. It's never been our intention to look at a higher tax rate at all. In fact, our hope was to come under the effective rate, and that's where we'll be. And I've talked to Mr. Manius, and we're going to have our second meeting about that as well. But the hospital district will not be increasing its taxes under any circumstances.
Thank you.
And as far as our employees go, I think others understand what unfortunate situations at a county level you're facing, at a city level what we're facing, what other communities are facing, and I think our employees are understanding that. I can certainly report from an administrative and executive branch. I know exactly what we're going to do with that. You will not see increases there from the executive side, and I feel certain that we'll come in line with the rest of our 4,500 employee base as well. We also are sensitive to having, in essence, an arm of the county doing something different than what the county is doing. And I don't think that sits well for you as elected officials or county employees to have 2 entities living in the same house sort of doing different things. So I want to be respectful of that.
Wish everybody looked at it that way.
Are there any other questions?
Appraisal district.
Well, we'll chat about them in a second.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Just to remind the court that on item F, the 2010 budget-related issues, that in the requests that are in the budget, there is an item for the Tarrant Appraisal District, a funding request, and if there's any comments or any message you would like for us to take back to the TAD about salary increases and things like that, we'll be more than happy to take those back.
Well, I think Commissioner Johnson just alluded to it, and I know that some of the rest of us have been made aware that they were looking at a 3% increase, and I would like, I don't know, formally as a court or certainly individually to send some sort of a letter or or just to make some sort of statement to them that says that, across this county, I think cities are experiencing budget issues. They're having to lay off people, or they're certainly not looking at increases. And the people within the county, the citizens themselves, are also experiencing, I think, some hard times. And I would certainly like to encourage the appraisal district to maybe reevaluate any salary increases and consider, freezing those increases and keeping that budget where it's at. I think that
would it be appropriate for us to do a letter?
I think we can do a letter. I don't think we have it agendized as an action item, but it's in the budget, and we are a part of that budget. So
their budget hearing's Friday, from what I understand.
I talked to Mr. Law, the chief appraiser, yesterday, and he's very interested in what the court's position is as far as salaries. He has many entities that participate, but he's very sensitive to that and would like to have at least a sense as to where the court is on salary increases as it relates to TAD. So I think that your agendized properly to state an opinion of the court, and if you'd like to take a vote as it relates to that specific issue, I think you're well positioned to do that.
Yeah, I heard all except that last mumbling you did. What'd you say?
I said that you're well positioned if you want to take some type of vote to give the status of where the court is on raises for TAD, what they should include in their budget. You could do that today.
I'd like to see a letter.
Okay, so we can have a motion to send a letter encouraging TAD to basically not, to keep the salaries at the same level that they were for the last budget year.
I will so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, that's all we have at this time.
Okay, we will now recess our.
You're 45 minutes.
We'll now move. We will now recess the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempt